Welcome, Rimvidas. It's a great pleasure to have you here as a person with a strong interest in the cloud infrastructure. You are leading the entire cloud business line at Companial for quite many years already. And today we are going to talk about your favorite topic, about bringing Business Central on-prem customers to the cloud. So to start with, why we are still talking about this topic? So it seems that it's already a decade past since we started tackling this opportunity and started bringing some solutions to the market. Is this topic still relevant? Do you think that we are not there yet in the cloud as the whole market with all our on-prem installations?
So first of all, thank you for having me in this podcast. Although, it has been dramatic shifts from on-prem to cloud in the past 5 or 7 years. But according to many surveys, especially in the ERP business, approximately 70% of the install base is still on-premise, right? So this means that there's still a lot of those customers who are using on-premise solutions, and they are either on their way to cloud or maybe they're stuck on-prem. That's why it is still important to talk about that. And this topic seems to be still relevant for many on-premise customers in the world.
From all your collective experience in this area, could you mention key objections, the strongest objections that you still hear from partners and their customers that kind of stops them from moving to the cloud? So could you mention a few, the strongest, the most common you hear?
Sure. So maybe I could compare the objections that we heard, say, 5 years ago and we're hearing now. So first and foremost, security is not an objection anymore, right? Because 5 years ago, everybody was doubtful whether moving to the cloud is secure enough. So although it's not objection anymore, but it's still a very relevant concern and very relevant question, right? So no doubt that cloud could be secure, but the customers need to be sure that there are proper investments, proper procedures, proper technologies that would allow them to be secure in the cloud. So it's like kind of a mandatory thing to have security certifications and all other technologies that would allow that. But that's not an objection anymore. From our experience. But still there are some objections, right? Why do customers still slow moving to the cloud? One of them is the investments that they already made into the on-premise. When I say investments made into on-premise, I mean both hardware, technological investments, and the license investments. The customers may have invested into their own service, their own infrastructure that is still running, and they don't see the point moving to the cloud at this point. From license investments, they might have invested into perpetual licenses a few years ago. So they spend the money and they don't want to go to cloud because they would need to basically subscribe for the cloud subscription. The other objection is cloud is still considered as a more expensive option versus the on-premise that they have already now, because of the monthly payments that they would have to pay versus the investments that they made some time ago into the on-premise infrastructure. And definitely those are the valid concerns, but they can be handled, they can be tackled.
And how do you handle it? What arguments do you bring to these partners in conversations?
When we talk about the cost, of course, we need to talk about the total cost of ownership. And the total cost of ownership not only through this year, but years forward as well. So if you would count the total cost of ownership as all the investments that you need to still maintain into your on-premise infrastructure, about your competencies, about the, say, electricity cost, security investments, human resources, competencies investment, and then you would basically multiply per multiple years, then in vast majority of the cases, cloud would be a more cost-effective option than on-premise. But the key point is that you need to calculate the total cost, not the one server cost investment versus, say, yearly subscription, but the total cost. So the total cost, you need just to do the math and include many cost components rather than just compare one server cost, right? And one more objection, which is kind of a unique objection in the ERP world. ERP systems, they're a bit more conservative than the other IT, workloads. In many cases, ERP system is like a brain of the whole organization, like a nerve system, right? If you could compare to the human body. So many companies, they prefer not to touch that if it's still working, because if you touch, things may get really bad if something goes wrong. So if it's still working, it's still okay. It still, provides, the productivity and, the all analysis that they need to get from ERP system. Many companies prefer not to touch it, avoid any risk of moving to the cloud. Yeah, not to perform any surgeries on, say, kind of a healthy organism.
Mm-hmm. Very nice analogy you are bringing. So what would be your message to partners who seem quite consciously tend to abandon their old Business Central on-prem installations and customers, and they kind of tend to focus more on new customers, new opportunities. So what's your point of view on that? So where this kind of mindset could lead to?
We see that some of the partners, they just refuse to serve the on-premise customers anymore. Obviously for some reason, right? And so there could be like two reasons from our experience. First of all, they don't want to maintain the competency of those legacy on-premise systems, especially if the system says maybe 10 years old, then probably you may have a shortage of the specialists who still know that old system, and it might be very expensive for you to maintain that competence. So if the partner deliberately doesn't want to maintain that competence, well, that is one of the options. The second reason why do they choose to abandon? Because they probably don't see any business from these relationships with these customers. And for those, the latter ones, we definitely have some advices to them, because from our experience, we see the ways still to earn some good business from those on-premise customers by going into the relationships that are not one-off project type of the relationships, but more of a subscription relationship, the continuous relationships. And that could be achieved in many ways. One of them is providing some kind of the managed services, some kind of a support, some kind of the end customer support for those customers. That could be a monthly, that could be a yearly subscription fee. The other way, for those on-premise customers, they can start moving to the cloud, right? They can move to the hosted hybrid cloud, and by that, they would go one step into the cloud, and then they would experience the cloud principles. They would not have an infrastructure headache, and they would get used to basically a relationship that is on the subscription basis. So they would kind of subscribe for the part of the infrastructure to be in the cloud. They will get used to that, and believe me, it would be much easier for them to move to the pure cloud, for the software as a service type of the solutions, when they were experiencing this hybrid cloud before. So that is our basically the recommendation to partners. If they can, not to abandon those customers, search for the opportunities to maintain those subscription type of the relationships, either by providing their own services or by providing some components of the cloud services, and help customers to get used to the cloud type of the provisioning.
You started talking about tactics, how to move to the cloud. And I know that one of the approaches that you are suggesting to partners and their customers to soften the transition to the cloud is so-called phased migration.
Yes.
So could you elaborate more on this phased migration approach? And maybe to start with, don't you think that Microsoft SaaS offering is good enough to migrate directly to it?
In ideal world, everybody would just migrate to the latest and greatest SaaS offering, and the question is solved. Everybody's on the cloud, right? Reality sometimes is a little bit different, right? The thing is, that no cloud is good for every customer. Different customers, different customer situations may require different approach, different type of the cloud. So if customer for some reasons cannot migrate to Microsoft SaaS, and there are still some reasons why they can. Besides some technological constraints like VPN integration and sizes of the databases and stuff like that, most typical constraint when partner or customer cannot migrate to say Microsoft SaaS offering is the incompatibility of their vertical solution with SaaS offering, right? This is probably temporary incompatibility because probably most of the partners in the world are working, to make this solution to be ready for the cloud, but there are still quite a lot of those vertical solutions which are not yet ready for the SaaS offering, right? So, and imagine if the customer is working with this vertical solution, which is in most cases the biggest value add in their ERP system. And this solution is not yet SaaS ready, so they cannot migrate to Microsoft SaaS, right? On the other side, customer may still want to have those benefits of the cloud, right? Like no infrastructure headache, security investment, subscription type of the payments and so on. So they want cloud on one side, and their technology, their solution does not allow to go into the cloud. So that is when this phased approach could be a good alternative, or at least temporarily alternative. And maybe we should clarify for our viewers what is this phased approach. This is basically the approach when the customers and partners, they take the on-premise solution, they move to the hybrid cloud, basically hosted cloud. In our case, we provide it on Azure. Some other vendors provide on different platform. So they move to that hybrid cloud. The on-premise solution is in the cloud already. And while they're working on enabling their vertical solution to be ready for the SaaS offering, they already start getting the benefits of the cloud. And once they're ready, once their vertical solution is ready, they will probably move to the SaaS offering, right? It can be, in a few months, it can be in a few years if it's so complicated solution. So that is the phased approach that we recommend. And it helps the customers to start getting benefits of the cloud immediately, not waiting for months or years when the solution is ready and they could go directly to SaaS offering. For those customers who are ready and whose solution is ready for cloud, there is no need to go through this phased approach. Right? They can go to SaaS offering directly, and that's it. But for those who cannot move that quickly, this is a good interim step.
Mm-hmm. On the way to this conversation, you also shared with me that you have quite regular conversations with other partners who have built their own competence in the cloud infrastructure over the past years. So could you share your impression how these partners are doing now? Mm-hmm. What maybe challenges are they facing on the way? Are they happy, not?
Sure. So, a few years ago, everybody rushed to the cloud because this is just a technology trend you cannot skip. And different partners had different successes, right? So we see the partners, probably especially those big partners with hundreds of the specialists, hundreds of employees, they have invested in their cloud competency. They have people with the relevant certificates. They have built a customer base of, say, hundreds of customers. So I think they're doing pretty well, right? But those mid-size partners with, say, 20, 50 type of the employees, they may have invested in the cloud competencies, and by cloud competencies, I mean, the infrastructure cloud competencies, the platform cloud competencies. And now they are facing somewhat of a dilemma, whether it is something they want to still continue investing, whether it is a strategic, focus area for them going into the future. Some partners, they basically reach the crossroad and they are deciding that this is not their core competence. And for quite typical Dynamics or ERP type of the partner, their core competence, core focus area is their vertical solution or horizontal solution, depending on the partner, and not the infrastructure. So those type of the partners, they lean to basically not to continue invest into the cloud competency. And in such cases, we see those partners, and we as well recommend those partners not to lose those relationships with their cloud customers, but maybe not to invest into their own cloud competence, but partner with somebody whose core interest, core focus area is the cloud infrastructure competence. This is kind of a win-win situation. So this dynamic partner can focus to their own strategic focus area, while basically partnering with a specialized cloud partner that could help them to maintain those relationships with the customers they already have in the cloud. Again, so this is what we see, and this is how we recommend for them to move forward.
Thank you, Rimvydas. Thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for helping our partners who are listening to this podcast to better navigate maybe this sometimes cloudy path towards the cloud. Thank you.
Sandra. Anytime.